Welcome to an overview, an introduction, if you will, to diplomacy. I'm using the backstabber.com website, which I have to say is actually a pretty cool interface. So what I have here is the very beginning of the game. Spring 1901 is when this takes place. There are 4 phases for each year of the game, and the game just kind of goes on until basically until someone wins or until multiple players decide to establish a split victory. I'm going to pull up the starter's guide here so we can go over that real quick. This is all pretty easy to find though, backstabber.com/rules. But yeah, we have solo victories. You need to hold 18 supply centers. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this up here next to the map for now. So we have 18 supply centers. You can see there are certain supply centers that have a circle on there. Colored circles are occupied by the power of that color. For example, these pink circles are occupied by Russia. Yellow for Turkey, and then white is a neutral color, which means any player power can capture that point. So simply be the first to hold 18 supply centers. Very easy to say, easier said than done, to be sure. You can also have shared victories, which you can decide by talking things out with the other players. You can also have surrenders and stuff like that. But basically, all of your turns are going to be split into 3 different seasons. So we have a spring, a fall, and a winter. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to notice it's spring 1901. First thing you do is an order phase, where you communicate with other players and issue commands to your unit. So you'll see each power here in the sandbox mode has a list of units that can be ordered, and their locations, which are on usually a 3-letter abbreviation. So then what you do is you submit your orders. You can issue your orders, and then you have an opportunity to submit them. So once everyone has their orders in, the system will process all the orders at once. So then it will automatically resolve certain things at that time, and then you'll have another opportunity to issue another set of orders in the fall, same as the spring. And then winter is what's called a retreat or build phase. So nothing is final until winter. So that means if you have units that are captured or dislodged or destroyed, or if you have command centers that you have captured or lost, those are not locked in until winter. So basically, if you lose something in spring but you can retake it in the winter, or I'm sorry, in the fall, then nothing will change over the course of winter. There's no units over the winter phase. It's just a build phase, and if you have lost control centers, that makes it so that you're unable to support the number of units that you currently have on the board. Then you'll be asked to disband a unit. So, for example, if I'm Russia and I have 4 control points, but then Turkey comes up and takes Sevastopol, then I can only support 3 units. So that means I'll be asked to disband one of my units of my choosing come winter if I don't retake Sevastopol or a neutral. Basically you just have to have enough supply points to support your armies. So that's retreating, but you also have a build phase in winter, which means that if you have captured additional points, you'll be able to build new units. Now, you can't build new units anywhere. You can only build them in the supply centers that you have started with at the beginning of the game. For example, England over here can only build units in Edinburgh, Liverpool, and London. And likewise for Russia, you can only build in St. Petersburg, Moscow, Sevastopol, and Warsaw. So that means if you go and you capture, say, Romania or Bulgaria, you can't build a unit there, but you can build additional units in your home territories. Yeah, so basically every year you have 2 order phases. You have a retreat phase and a build phase. So it does go in that order. Oh, I should say that there are retreat phases as part of the resolution for each spring and fall session. So that means if your units get dislodged or forced to retreat or or otherwise disrupted, you may be asked to retreat them to an adjacent unoccupied territory. That and you can't like, for example, if you're attacked from Finland to St. Petersburg, you can't retreat from St. Petersburg to Finland. I mean, that kind of goes without saying, but sometimes you just have to put that out there. All right, part 4, we have units. There's only 2 units. Very simple. You have an army, they go on the land. You have a fleet, they go on the waters, but they can also attack coastal regions. And then some territories here, for example, Bulgaria, Spain, St. Petersburg, for example, will have small letters here that say NC and SC. I'll zoom in on the map here. So here's an NC and an SC. Those are north and south coasts. So, for example, a fleet in the Barents Sea can attack St. Petersburg as easily as the Gulf of Bothnia, a fleet in there. They can both attack to the different coasts. Likewise, if you have Mid-Atlantic or Western Mediterranean, they can both attack Spain on different coasts. So that can be important because if you have an army in Spain, there is no distinction for armies on which coast you're on. So, for example, if you have a fleet in the Mid-Atlantic Ocean and a fleet in the Western Mediterranean and an army in Spain, then you can either you can use your fleets to convoy, and we'll talk about convoys later. You can use your fleets to convoy from Spain using either the north or south coasts. So, for example, you can convoy from Spain to Tunis, or you can convoy from Spain to Brest, or some other part of, if you can convoy across multiple ocean tiles if you have a fleet in each one and you issue the orders correctly. So fleets are important, but they also can't go into the middle of the map, so it makes sense. There's only 4 things you can do with each of your units, and you can see those little buttons here: hold, move, convoy, support. Move or attack are the same thing. So if I wanted to issue a move order, excuse me, if I wanted to issue a move order using the backstabber interface, it's really as simple as this. So I'm going to start out with this, like the rest of my examples with Russia. So I have an army in Moscow. That's this circle here. This with the pink outline. A circle, the smaller circle with the black outline is my supply center. So if I want to move my army from Moscow, say to Sevastopol, I just click and I click again. So I click the target or the unit, and then I click the destination. It automatically issues move orders. Same thing for Sevastopol. I can move into the Black Sea there. I can move from Warsaw down into Galicia, and I can move from St. Petersburg. Now here's a good example. This fleet in St. Petersburg is on the south coast, so I can't move to the Barents Sea. I can only move to Finland, Livonia, or the Gulf of Bothnia. So there, and then you'll see over here on the orders side, my orders have been updated. So these are just generic move orders. Now, if I'm going to play Turkey, I can do a couple extra little things. I can move there, and I can kind of issue chain commands. So I can order the Smyrna army to move into Constantinople, and I can move the Constantinople army out to Bulgaria at the same time. And if I wanted to do that, I can move the Turkish fleet in Ankara, up into the Black Sea as well. You'll notice that they're going to come into conflict here with the Russian Navy, and we'll get to that later when we resolve this turn. You can also do what are called support moves. So, for example, if I thought for a second, if I'm playing France here, and I want to move from Paris to Burgundy, but I have it on good authority, for example, that the German player in Munich is also going to move into Burgundy, that conflict there is going to bounce both armies back to their home location because there's only one unit strength. So, for example, I have one army from Paris moving to Burgundy, and I have one army from Munich moving to Burgundy. So they're going to, it's kind of like a tie. They're just going to tie, and they're going to retreat. They're going to have a little skirmish there, and they're going to retreat back to where they came from, unless I issue a support order. And then I can add the strength of the army in Marseille to the army in Paris and assist his move into Burgundy. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on the army in Marseille. I'm going to click support, I'm going to click the unit I want to support. That's the army in Paris. And I'm going to click where I want to support it to. And you have to be careful there, because if you support a move from one unit into a different area, then you're basically not going to provide any support to where it's actually moving. So if I do that, if I move from Paris to Gascony instead, this unit here in Marseille is still going to be trying to support an army from Paris into Burgundy, but it's never going to come. So this unit does not move. The supporting unit does not move. Only the attacking unit will move. So as long as those two units move in conjunction with one another, and their orders are issued in such a way that complement each other, then that will execute properly. The only issue that you have here is that you can support other units. So for example, let's say Italy and Austria here are going to be talking to each other and deciding that, just for argument's sake, I'm going to have this Venetian army. Is that right? Did I do that right? Let me see here. Yeah, Venetian, sorry. So if I have this Venetian army, support an army from Vienna moving into Trieste, I can issue that order to other players as well. And that's where a lot of these opportunities for backstabbing and betrayal and lying and all of these other things come into play. So if I'm the Italian player, I can verbally agree with the Austrian player that I'm going to provide this support. But in actuality, if I wanted to move there, the other player would not be able to see this. So this is a sandbox mode. I should point this out, that if you're playing this normally, you wouldn't be able to see other players' moves in real time until after you've submitted everything. Since this is sandbox mode, I can issue orders to all the players. So I'm going to quickly just issue a few more orders here, make sure everyone is moving. Yeah, I'll do something like that. So you'll see here I have a full order list, and then once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. It'll load and process all the orders, and then now you'll see all the units are in their new locations. So if I wanted to go back and look at the spring, I can see this is a click of this is a results page, if you will, for what happened in the spring turn of 1901. So I can see, and I think you should be able to see this after the orders are submitted. You'll be able to see everything, even if you're a normal player. So you can see who issued what order, where and when and why. So for example, this fleet in Sevastopol tried to move into the Black Sea, and it failed because the attack strength is not greater than the prevent strength. Same thing for the Turkish fleet here in Ankara going to the Black Sea. So these two fleets here, they just bounce and they're going to retreat back to where they came from. Now you'll see you can do a chain of bounces here because Moscow, the army in Moscow, was issued the order to move to Sevastopol. And since there's already a fleet there, because this result bounced him back, then that means the Moscow army also does not move. So this is called a prevent in the lexicon of the game, and then the defend strength is kind of what it's called when the army or the fleet is just sitting there. So here we go. Let's look at our other example here. Munich to Burgundy versus Paris to Burgundy with support from the Marseille army. So the French orders here all succeeded, whereas the Germany order to move fails. So that means the prevent strength of Burgundy was 1. Or I should say 2, because there are 2 units there providing support or moving in. So if I was Germany and I wanted to actually tie that or to move in, I should have 3 units doing support orders on my Munich army moving in. Let's see, what else happened here? That's about it. So now that I'm done, I can go to the current season and start issuing more orders based on what's happened here. Now, I'm going to use this fleet in the Mid-Atlantic to attack Portugal. I should say just take Portugal. So here's where convoy's coming in. I'm going to issue this move order from the army in Yorkshire to go to Norway. But that's not going to be possible unless I issue a convoy order, which is kind of like a support move, but for fleets. So only fleets can convoy, and convoying is not a support action. So I can't add the strength of this the North Sea fleet to the army moving into Norway. So if someone was also moving into Norway, I wouldn't be able to take that because it's not a supported move. The fleet is only convoying, basically. The other thing you can do is you can support hold. So that means you can like shore up defenses, you know. You can add your strength to something else. So if you don't want it to move, you can at least keep it from being broken. Now what I've done here with the British is I've done a protected convoy, basically. So I know that the Yorkshire army is going to be able to move to Norway. But if I was worried about this German army, this German fleet from Denmark moving into the North Sea, if I wasn't supporting this here, this attack, this move, wouldn't dislodge the English fleet, but it would disrupt the convoys so that this English army would not be able to move. Now, by supporting this, then that means I have a defend strength of 2 versus the attack strength of 1. So this attack from Denmark into the North Sea is going to be unsuccessful, and my convoy is going to be protected. So that's an easy way to kind of make sure that your armies get where they need to go. Same thing here with Burgundy. I can actually, let's see, what am I going to do here? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to move him up, and I'm going to move him up. So let's see, what else do I want to talk about? Oh, I can do another convoy here. So I can move from Naples to Tunisia via convoy. So you see how I'm issuing that order. So I'm telling the fleet in the Ionian Sea, convoy, and then I'm clicking Naples, and then I'm clicking Tunisia. So that mirrors the movement of the army. Now let's just, for example, let's say I tell my army in Naples that they're going to Greece, but I tell the fleet that I want a convoy from Naples to Tunisia. So we'll see what happens there. I have my orders up here. You see Naples, Tunisia, and then it says Naples to Greece. So these orders are not going to work. So that's going to be interesting, to say the least. So here I think I can do this as well. I'm going to support the fleet from the Adriatic Sea to take Venice with an army in Trieste. Now what I can do also is I can use the Tyrolia army to try and disrupt that support. And that'll be a good example of how these kinds of things would normally play out. And I can do the same thing with the fleet, so I can use the fleet in Sevastopol to support an army in Galicia to move into Romania. Let's see here, what do I want to do? I'm going to move these guys around a little bit. There's an army in Serbia that's going to hold. So this is another good thing, is that when you're taking your turn, you can look at your list of orders, your submit orders, and it's sorted by unit, right? So for example, if I hadn't issued an order to the army in Moscow, there wouldn't be a letter there. It would just say A in Mos. So I'd say, oh shit, I almost forgot about my army in Moscow. So I'm going to move him up. Move him into Ukraine. And I think that's it. So I've issued orders to everything, and I'm going to go ahead and submit. So again, this is going to submit, and it's going to go immediately into the winter. So we have a disband. We have 2 builds, 2 builds, 2 builds, 1 build, 2 builds, 2 builds. So these are all done at the same time. And again, individual players would only see their list. But if I wanted to go back, and you can go back to any season at any time. So I'm going to go back to fall. I'm going to look at this results page here. So all these red arrows and red lines are failed orders. And again, it will say here in red what happened. So here's the Italy example, where the army from Naples wanted to go to Greece, but the fleet technically succeeded doing its convoy, and that just means that it wasn't attacked, it wasn't interrupted. So it succeeded, but they didn't go anywhere because they were issued the invalid move path here. And the same thing would happen if you wanted to if you did this move from Naples to Greece without convoying at all, you would have an invalid move path. It would be like, oh, I don't have any way to go, I can't walk on water, sorry, I can't get there. Now, army tier, so it's Tyrell, or Tyrell, whatever. It fails. Attack strength is not greater than defense strength. So again, this ties. But what happened here is this unit attacking this unit broke that support. So you see that dotted line there is now red. So that means that support is broken. So that would reduce the strength of this attack force to 1. Now Venice is undefended, so the Austrian fleet actually does succeed in getting into Venice. But this disruption of the support can make or break your offensive moves, or it can really give you an advantage if you plan things correctly. Now let's look at this convoy example here. This Denmark fleet trying to go into the North Sea fails. Attack strength is not greater than the defense strength because England issued its support order right here. So this fleet in the English Channel supports the North Sea, and that has succeeded. So if this fleet here, let's do a hypothetical. Let's say the German player and the French player both agree that they're going to attack England. So that this fleet in the mid-Atlantic Ocean could have attacked the fleet in the English Channel and disrupted this support, which would have opened up the fleet in Denmark to be able to break the convoy from the North Sea, stranding the army in Yorkshire. So that means all English units would stay the same. They would not be able to pick up a build during the winter build phase, and basically preventing London from kind of putting a lid on them, preventing them from moving out and getting any more builds. You could also, I mean, that's the type of thing you would look for if you're an English player, because you would kind of look to see who's attacking you and who's working together. Just a general meta strategy. It could have been a coincidence that the French player wanted to attack you and Germany, and that the German player decided he wanted to attack France and Germany. Or I'm sorry, German player decided he wanted to attack France and England. Gosh, I'm getting my words all mixed up. But yeah, you kind of want to keep an eye out. If there's orders that are issued that look like they would, be collaborative, then you got to be careful and kind of start watching your back from those two players, or at least talk to one of them or both of them and see what the hell happened. I mean, assuming that they're telling you the truth. So let's go back to the winter build phase. Let's see. Turkey had a good turn 1. They had a good 1901, good year. So they can build 2 units because they captured Bulgaria and Greece, which have a supply center at each. So again, you can only build in your starting territory. But I'm going to go ahead and build a fleet in Constantinople. So see, now I have up to 1 more build. It automatically subtracts. And I'm going to build a fleet in, oh yeah, Ankara and Constantinople. I think that's a good idea. Well, maybe I'll do an army there. Let's see. Italy has to disband because they lost a unit. They lost a supply center in Venice. So they can no longer support their three units. So I'm actually going to have to disband. And what am I going to do for this example? I'll disband the Tyrolia army. Again, a lot of these, like I know the abbreviation, but a lot of the names, it's helpful. It's very helpful that you can mouse over them and see the real name there in italics. Ugh, keeps things from getting confusing. Those, you have Tyr, Tri, Tus, Tis, Tis, Tune. There's a lot of like little 3 letters that are similar, so it helps if you're able to know what the actual geographic location is. So France has 2 builds. Captured Portugal and we captured Belgium. So I'm going to build an army in Paris and a fleet in Brest. Austria again has 2 builds because they picked up Serbia and Venice. So I'm going to build an army. Oh, I can't build any fleets because I don't have a coastal territory because Trieste is occupied. So because of that, I'm going to build another army in Venice. Or I'm sorry, Vienna. Germany has 2 builds. They picked up Denmark and Holland. So I'm going to build a fleet in Kiev and an army in Munich. 1 build for England. They picked up Norway, so I'm going to build an army in London. And Russia has 2 builds. They picked up Sweden and Romania. So Sevastopol is occupied. I can build in Warsaw, and they can build in Moscow. So then we'll submit this winter build phase, and we'll go straight into spring 1902. And we're back to the orders, but you'll see your orders list is way bigger now. There's a lot more units. A lot of things went down. A lot of stuff happened. And that's the basic flow of the game. I mean, there's only 4 things you can do, and there's only 2 units. So the structure of the game is very simple, but the real politics of it, like agreeing, like, okay, so if I'm Austria, I'm looking at Russia. I'm already successful against Italy, so I should maybe think about, who do I want to side with? Do I want to side with Russia, or do I want to side with Turkey? And likewise, Turkey is going to be looking and seeing, oh, Austria's getting big, Russia's getting big. I need to pick one and side with one of these guys to take down the other, or else I'm never going to get out of my little corner in the map down here. And sometimes you can make like non-aggression pacts, or like split things up. So here, like maybe the English player and the Russian player would agree to have a DMZ. Like, okay, Norway and Sweden are off limits. I'm going to move my units back down, and as long as you don't mess with me, I won't mess with you. So I'm going to go ahead and issue these orders here. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to issue a hold order here, and then just for an example, I can issue an army support order. So this fleet here is supporting the fleet in the North Sea. So English Channel Fleet supports North Sea. North Sea is convoying from Norway to Yorkshire. And the army in London, since it's adjacent to Yorkshire, can also support that move. So you can storm that beach. I mean, if that was like an enemy beach or something like that, you could get in there. And yeah, it's actually, that would be a really safe move. Now, if I were the German player and the French players, and I decided, well, we're sick of England pushing us around, being better than us, and having worse teeth. we're gonna take these guys out, so we can disrupt all this stuff and keep them from moving, and start a little campaign here. So this German fleet's going to move up in here. It's kind of interesting to play in the sandbox mode because there's a lot going on. If you're just playing one player, then it's not that bad. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. Everything else is in the rules here. There's a lot of tips and a lot of resolving attacks, but honestly, like as far as like a board game goes, this is only about 3 pages of rules. But there's a lot of possibilities on this map, especially if you can work with someone to destroy one of your enemies. So that's my basic overview of diplomacy. Hopefully that helps, and hopefully it's not too long. Oh my god, it's a half hour long. Well, I think I've covered everything at least. So yeah, thanks for watching.